Hey there. So, another episode, Blue Collar Scholar. We're doing The New Class War by Michael Lind. I believe this is part 3. Let's continue. In understanding the populist eruptions that are burning down long-established party systems in Europe and North America, we must distinguish the sparks from the fuel. In different countries, the sparks have been different. In Germany, a sudden and controversial influx of Middle Eastern immigrants beginning in 2015. In France, a regressive tax that fell heavily on working-class citizens. In the United States, the migrations of millions of illegal immigrants and the devastation of industrial regions by East Asian imports, and the decisions of U.S. companies to shutter their factories and replace them with new ones abroad. But what fuels the conflagration, once kindled, is a mass of grievances that have accumulated over years or decades. The class conflict in the transatlantic West has erupted into a roaring conflagration only recently with the Brexit vote and the election of Donald Trump in 2016. The coming to power of a coalition of populist outsiders in Italy, the Yellow Vest protests in France, and other political fires. But the class war has been smoldering for half a century. Yeah, so, all that makes sense, right? A lot of people, I remember I was talking with one coworker about Trump one time, and she said, what Trump proved to me is that money can just buy everything. And it's like, yeah, kinda, but I think it also had something to do with the Rust Belt being hollowed out by globalization, and them dying deaths of despair from opioid overuse and stuff like that, with no one really offering any kind of solution. Or like, Trump didn't really even offer a solution. I mean, I guess he did. He said, we're going to bring your jobs back, but then he kind of didn't. But he at least addressed it, which was more than any of the other candidates really did. So, that's what happens. Moving on. One way to understand these results is to recognize that in the United States and similar Western democracies, there are two political spectrums. One for the college-educated, managerial, professional, overclass minority, and one for the non-college-educated, working-class majority of all races. Each of these class-based political spectrums has its own right, its own left, and its own center. Yeah, so, that's how it goes. The weakness of populism is that it is literally reactionary. Populists react against what the dominant overclass establishment does, rather than having a positive and constructive agenda of their own. I think that's a very important point. And I think that's why nothing really ever changes. Is because if you're always reacting to whatever the establishment does and never being proactive, then nothing's really going to change. And I think like a lot of working class people don't really even, I think, know how to organize effectively anymore, because most people are tired after work. You get home and you just want to Netflix and chill, and you want when I get home, I don't even work that, I work kind of part-time, and even on my days on, it's just I feel like I don't have enough time at all. I get home, take the dog for a walk, do chores, make dinner get ready for the next day. By that point, it's 10 o'clock, and you got to go to bed. So, what time of the day are you supposed to the most I do for political activism is shit post on Twitter. That's pretty much the extent of it. Which maybe I hope that's helpful, because I waste way too much time on it. But also, I'm probably just creating a profile for myself so that the government can eventually gulag me easier. Okay. The historical record in many countries shows that when populist outsiders challenge oligarchic insiders, the oligarchs almost always win. Bummer. The oligarchs may not have numbers, but they control most of the wealth, expertise, and political influence, and dominate the media, universities, and non-profit sectors. Most populist waves break and disperse on the concrete seawalls of elite privilege. It's pretty depressing, but is he wrong? You tell me. Those who favor democracy can look on this kind of political order only with dismay. Formal democracy may survive, but spirit has fled. No matter who wins, the insiders or outsiders, the majority will lose. When a society is trapped in a vicious circle in which selfish oligarchs alternate with populist hucksters, economic growth and the rule of law are all likely to be casualties. Yeah. So it's there. It's a big club. You ain't in it, basically. Populist demagogues can channel the legitimate grievances of many working class voters, but they cannot create a stable, institutionalized alternative to overclass-dominated neoliberalism. Only a new democratic pluralism that compels managerial elites to share power with the multiracial, religiously pluralistic working class in the economy, politics, and the culture can end the cycle of oscillation between oppressive technocracy and destructive populism. So, yeah. That seems like it's getting at some sort of solution, but the solution is basically they just have to share, which I don't know if they're going to do, because why would you? Until you're threatened with your life and livelihood, it's really not in your interest to. So I think we're definitely trending towards oppressive technocracy, are we not? At least in Canada, for sure, where I am. Seems like that's kind of the way they want to go. They want to freeze your bank accounts for protesting the government and limit your internet consumption to CBC approved programming. A far more common view among transatlantic elites interprets the success of populist and nationalist candidates in today's Western democracies not as predictable and disruptive backlash against oligarchic misrule, but as a revival of Nazi or Soviet-style totalitarianism. Yeah, I don't know why they would, because I feel like they're the Soviets, and that's like kind of the funny thing is that seems like projection there by the transatlantic elites to think that the working class are Nazis or communists. You know, when most of them, I think a growing number of them want like kind of like some kind of free market system, because their current system benefits them. It's like the government prints money, gives it to them to stimulate the economy, and then they just kind of sit on it or whatever. Anyway, we'll stop there for today because I gotta go back.